Your Town Matters is funded by the Government of Canada through the Local Journalism Initiative and supported by Cactus Media, Canada's independent community television association.
I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Your Town Matters. I'm joined today by the Mayor of the Town of St. Andrews, Brad Henderson. Thanks so much for being here today, Brad.
It's great to be back. It's been a busy July.
It has been, and on that note of being busy, I want to talk about housing right off the bat. That seems to be one of the main topics at council meetings lately. Let's first talk about the Compass project, which is proposed at the site of the Blue Moon Motel, the former Blue Moon Motel,
Yep.
by Tressa Bevington and Compass Housing, an affordable housing unit that the town, I guess, is sort of, is it a development agreement that you're going ahead with at this point?
Yeah, so that's what we're in the stage. So first of all, it was an economic development agreement. It's kind of what we're kicking off for support. They've purchased the property, but now it's got to go through all three readings in order for it to actually be rezoned. It's a commercial property, and it would have to go to kind of multiple residential. And as well, assuming that goes through, then there's an agreement that I'd certainly love to talk about, because it's something that we've never done before, that I'm aware of. So the fact that we've been talking so much about housing isn't really a surprise. The Regional Service Commission just released another study showing that the situation we had pre-pandemic is no better now in Charlotte County. In fact, we've gotten worse. When everybody ran for council, we all were interviewed on CHCO right here in the studio. Myself sitting in this exact probably position on this couch, told you that if elected, we were going to do something around housing and affordable housing. So we've been very fortunate to have two development agreements already signed. One being by Kingsbury Garden. There's 10 units going in there, like garden homes. And then, of course, at the corner of Bar Road and Mowat Drive, you can actually see in the woods, it's actually the land's getting prepped right now to bring in a potentially 25 new rental units. But those are great projects. They're going to be market value, which affordable is such a broad word. Mm-hmm. But we really wanted to make a mark on affordable housing. So to talk more specific about Compass Housing, we needed a project that was going to be for the senior in our community that's having trouble making ends meet on a limited budget when everything's going up around us. There's a lot of single parents. Some have messaged me on Facebook saying, help, I have to move my family. It's pretty tragic to see. And then, of course, young workers, businesses are closing 2 days a week downtown. They don't have enough staff. One downtown hasn't even opened because I don't think they got enough resumes. So we had to do something. We said we were going to do something. But this level is something that I was impressed by council. They were aggressive. So the grant that the town of St. Andrews is going to be giving towards this project is $500,000, assuming it goes through the process of rezoning and everything. It's all pending that. It has a clause in it where if something doesn't go ahead, it doesn't get built, the town of St. Andrews is not giving those funds. But really, when you look at it, it's like, wow, a municipality is giving that much money to a private developer. And I have the same reaction to it, but we've got to start thinking a little different. Over the course of this agreement of $500,000, it means that the developer will have to lock in for 15 years of affordable housing. Over the course of those 15 years, the tax dollars that the town of St. Andrews is going to get is about $750,000. So basically, we're upfronting $500,000 over the next 15 years to get $750,000 back and lock in affordable housing. Mm-hmm. It is aggressive, but if you look at an investment for long-term benefit of St. Andrews, this is a good investment. And that property at the Blue Moon, we received a petition from the neighbors on Mowat Drive, Thomas Avenue, probably my second year on council, telling us to do something about the area. They were worried about vacant commercial properties, unsightly premises, drug activity from just the vacancy of potential places to do perhaps deals, whatever it was. They sent a whole petition saying do something about our neighborhood. Well, that's what we're doing. We're taking this motel property. It was It was there for a number of years, almost 15 years sitting there burnt down, and we're taking it and using it for the community's greatest need. And that place has 2 driveways. It's on a main artery of getting into St. Andrews that handles a lot of traffic. It checks the box, and I know that there's some opposition to this project. I don't think anyone's fighting that we don't need affordable housing. And it's important to note that affordable housing is not the same as low income housing. And I'm not saying we don't need low income housing. It's just we circled affordable housing. So there is a perception when you have affordable housing or low income housing that there could be an increase in crime, police presence, and then the neighborhood. Some of the neighbors are afraid of the unknown. And that's quite normal. I'll be honest. In my experience of council, anytime that we've done anything new on a piece of property, 95% of the time, the neighbors are opposed to the project. So we haven't got that much opposition right now. We're getting a little, but that's why we do 3 readings. People can still write to town council and ask for a change. But these units are, interest rates are going up, but we've got it locked in where these units cannot exceed $1,200. So you could have a 2-bedroom, 2 people that work in downtown St. Andrews, and they'll probably be paying about $500 a rent. So 1-bedrooms are going to be around $600 to $800 depending on what it is, and then 2 bedrooms will be $1,080 to $1,200. And if you look at the market prices in St. Andrews, that is extremely competitive. And then, if you look at an investment like $50,000, I'm giving you a lot on this, but I really haven't had a chance myself outside of council to talk about this too much. You could say, oh, just give them $50,000. Well, if you have 42 units and you knock $300 off regular rent prices, $50,000 would only subsidize rent for 3 months. So you need to do something bigger. And I could sit here and say, well, the provincial government, it's their responsibility. The federal government needs to do this. We're done pointing fingers. We're going to get it done. And, as far as where the money came from, we budgeted to spend this money. We allocated $900,000 for affordable housing projects. So I know that was a long rant, but there was so much to say about it. And I can tell you that we've had a lot more letters of support than opposition. There is a lot of people that have taken the time to write and say, this is the project the community needs. So we're excited. I mentioned the previous projects plus this one. We're adding, and we've got more in the hopper, we're adding already 100 new rental units in the town of St. Andrews. So things should change and be better for people that are struggling.
And Compass, from what I understand, is 44 units, but 6 1-bedroom, the rest 2, possibly 3 bedrooms. So we're looking at around maybe 80 places for 80 people in this
Correct.
building?
42 units.
Okay.
6 are going to be single bedroom, and the remaining 36 will be 2 bedroom. And all of them have almost like a little den work area as well. It's more common as well from a lot more people that are working from homes. They wanted to put a workspace in it as well. So the next steps on that, it still needs 2nd and 3rd reading. But before we go to 2nd reading, council really needs to see the site plan.
Right.
So that's what we've asked from the developer. We will share that and make that public for more people to give feedback. There is some people that have wrote in. We're looking at that. We're putting considerations. It's still going through the process of council. Nothing is 100% locked up, but it looks like we're going in a positive direction on this one.
There was some criticism from residents that thought maybe enough developers weren't engaged in the process of submitting plans. But did you see other developers submit things, or were they just not there to?
No, that's a great question. So if you think about the process with other developers, so what we actually did is we put RFPs out. We put 2. We put one at the top of Champlain. There was a parcel of land. And we put a parcel at the bottom of Diana, which is in with the subdivision, both of them. And we received 2 submissions for the one on Champlain. We received 0 for the one off Diana. And I can tell you that those proposals that we received were not as favorable to council as this one. We had a scoring matrix that we put them against, and this external opportunity with the developer bringing the land to the table versus us giving away town land. And I know that there's a perception that, well, you gave it to them for $1. It still has value. And there's going to reach a point, hopefully many years from now, when this community doesn't own any land and we're going to regret giving it all away. So this was repurposing. So when we looked at those multiple offers, we also looked behind the NBCC. I talked to you about this on the show. To get the land ready for the NBCC, just to start building, was over $500,000 because of the soil composition. We tried 3 or 4 different ways to spark it with multiple developers, and this by far was the best offer for the community. And what we really appreciate is the developer said, I'm going to tell you exactly what the rent's going to be, and I'm willing to lock it in. Mm-hmm. We never got that anywhere else. We never got that. And really, if you're going to spend public money, you need to make sure what you're looking for is exactly what you get back. So I personally have had talks with 9 to 10 different developers. This was the best opportunity for the community. And under the Community Planning Act, when you elect a council, they do have the authority to make this decision, and council unanimously did.
We're seeing the population of St. Andrews grow astronomically, relatively, in terms of our size as a town. Xander from the Southwest Service Commission, he's obviously one of the lead planners there, said our vacancy rate is 2.5%. I think that equates
two units.
Yeah, 2 to 2 units. A healthy vacancy rate is 3% to 5%. But again, we're seeing restaurants like the Pier downtown still unable to open because of staffing shortages. So is that what you're hearing from the business community? Obviously, something like affordable housing could greatly impact different businesses in the community and their ability to stay open, whether it's longer hours or open at all. In terms of cases like the Pier, still not open end of July.
Yeah, and I wish them the best, but the reality, if you don't have staff at the end of July, you're going to have a hard time getting them rest of summer. A lot of them are spoken for. Now, it is important to note that the whole industry, if you look at colleges, the enrollment is down in these types of programs. Some of these fields of business have reputations at working long hours, not paying enough, big expectation. So the worker of tomorrow is looking for a different environment. But when you add a limited supply of workers and then you add a housing crisis on top of it, you're magnifying it, you're making it worse. And that's why we're probably in the province one of the few spots you'd circle to say it doesn't get any tougher than that to run a restaurant. And we have a lot of good restaurants in this community that, I know Rossman, I believe, Chris and Graziella, who built that business up, they're back on the line working because here's the top chef in New Brunswick, one of the top 100 restaurants, and I think it's ranked even higher in Canada, and they're having trouble to get people in the kitchen. That clearly tells me something needs to change here. So we all celebrate population growth. We grew 14.8% on the last census. It's one thing to say, oh, look at us, we're the fastest growing. To keep those people, that's a whole other story. And even residents that have no plan of leaving this community are moving away because they have no place to go. And I know we're talking about other things like childcare. There's a plan in the hopper with that through the Passquoddy Children's Center. I'm hoping it comes out soon. We're looking at ways of meeting these challenges, and I'd much rather sit here and talk about these challenges than we have vacant buildings where we have no one to live. But it's a situation where council can't do enough to help spur development to meet the needs of our community. But in the same sense, with all these projects, there's 3 or 4 more that we're talking about through private developers on their own, through other combinations. I'm sure we'll talk about another one today. There's lots of potential to believe that the housing situation in St. Andrews is going to get better over the next 2 years, and that is because it's the #1 priority of council.
Right, and obviously I would imagine that gas prices complicate this issue, whereas if you're looking at jobs, say in that minimum wage range, that it used to be easier to find people from outside of the community who'd be willing to drive in, but when you don't have that cost covered, it's almost not worth a 5-hour shift to drive in to St. Andrews from half an hour away.
Well, we had the record increase in minimum wage, but let's be honest about the numbers. Like, even though you might get an extra $1 or $2 an hour, if you live outside the community and in the more rural areas, like just outside St. Andrews, St. Stephen, even St. George, and you're driving to St. Andrews to work, all that money that you got with that maybe bump in minimum wage is just being handed over at the gas pump. So I imagine it's a pretty difficult time. I feel, and I work in the industry. If someone's making minimum wage plus even a couple dollars, it's got to be very tough to make bills make sense right now, just because of the cost of everything. We're hoping to change the game and make this community for everybody, because that's the problem right now, is people will tell you that this community isn't for everybody because they can't afford to live in it.
Right. On a different housing note, we have a project, a Bridal Path project, Water Street, on the site of the old HMS building. I sound like James Mullinger with the old Blue Moon Hotel. Yes, exactly. Can you tell us a little bit about where we're at? I was at the town council where it was a presentation. I know there's a public hearing of objections coming up to the proposed plan. It's a 4-story unit, which is sort of out of character for Water Street, though visibly from the street it looks like 3 stories if anyone was at town council or watched it. Yeah. You did see a bit of an outline of what the proposed plans are, but can you tell us what the next steps are in this project?
Yeah, so the first thing is the actual developer made a presentation, which we mailed out to the entire peninsula, Shamcook, Bocabec, and Bayside as well. It was good. There was a good turnout. A lot of people asked questions. I was really glad to see the developer actually answer them, which was really good. It felt like it was a very open, found out what's flexible in the project, what's not. But the next step, to answer your question, is there is a hearing of objections to the project on August 15th at 6:30 p.m. at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Dining Room. We moved it out of council chambers just because it's small, and we think there'll be a number of people based on feedback that might want to say for and against, which we've got it for that project too. I think the real two things that I'm hearing, and I know some people want certain studies done and things like that, but the two big concerns is what does it look like and the height. The height is outside of what we would call the secondary municipal plan. It's not as tall as the Kennedy Inn. The Kennedy Inn is the tallest building in downtown St. Andrews. It's not that tall. In fact, it's only a little taller than the building across the street, but it is taller than majority of that block. And as such, they're looking to have it taken out of the secondary municipal plan. That property can be taken out of it, which would mean that it would get the requirement. So, one of the questions I was looking going into the presentation is, do you need the fourth floor? Again, you mentioned it's sunk back, so you shouldn't really see too much from the streetscape. But the question is, does it really need that fourth floor? If it was a third floor, they don't even come before council. They're good to go. But they said for the financial viability of it that it needs to happen in order to get return on investment, because they're doing in-ground parking, which you drive underneath, which would be a real good blessing for downtown St. Andrews. If you were going to have a building that size without its own parking solution, you can imagine the chaos that would be. So that was the answer to that. One thing that was very positive was the other thing, the look of it. It seems like the developer is very flexible to getting feedback, working with council on making it a little bit more visually appealing. If it goes ahead, and that's an important point, is the developer was very clear to council, this may not even go ahead with the cost of things, right. Rising interest rates. It may even if we get an agreement, it may not ever actually happen. So there's a lot more to come, but right now it's all about the public giving us feedback. It would still have to go through 2 more readings again in order for it to get done. But same as Compass Housing in this one is we're not rushing through the next 2 readings. We're going to take our time and make sure that it's done right. We get it. We need housing, but in the same sense, we don't want to completely take away from the look and feel of our community. Mm-hmm. I always said there's a balance with development, and people will take that and say, well, you said there's a balance with development. There is a real balance, and the thing is sometimes opinions on that differ at how much things impact you, right?
Mm-hmm. So there was one person who spoke, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, at the council meeting, the last council meeting, and he did mention what we did with Tim Hortons in this town and how that was historical in terms of us asking Tim Hortons to be in keeping with the look and feel of our town, and so should we continue on that path with new developments to keep that in mind? I know that he mentioned John Rocket, do I have his name right?
Correct.
Okay, Bridal Path, that he would consider or is very open to doing storefronts downstairs too that would extend, that you'd be right beside the dollar store across from Drew Haven, so it would be a nice addition to that block in terms of making the business district even longer.
Yeah, that's a good thing to add too. Is the fact is the plan, no matter what, is the downstairs would be retail space. There'd be 2 different storefronts. I think that's important. We only have limited opportunity to expand our historic downtown business district. We're very fortunate, knock on wood, that we don't have a lot of vacancies in our downtown that some communities are facing right out of COVID. But if we have an opportunity to add more businesses or services to our community through this extra retail space, that's a pro for this project. And if it was the first floor being residential, I don't think it would be as attractive as a building. I think that storefront is very important. I think the main feedback we're getting is the brick, and this is people's opinion, and I don't mean to talk about the project, but some people find the brick makes it look almost too institutional, like a hospital or like a school. They'd like to see something that's more historic feel to match some of the other buildings in the downtown. But I say that because there's a brick building on that exact corner that used to be a bank, and then of course our post office is brick, and then we have brick throughout the downtown. So to say that material doesn't necessarily fit that wouldn't be 100% accurate either, but some people are looking for that more wood historic look that you see on a lot of buildings in the downtown. So we'll see. Right now our job is to listen. So once we listen, then we'll talk about the next steps.
Another project going ahead in St. Andrews is the outdoor gym, another initiative that's part of SORTI and the Age Friendly Community Committee as well. the decision for the location over on the point near the trail, that has had some controversy though. Can you speak a little bit about what the next phases are? I know that the Minister for ACOA, the Federal Minister for ACOA, Jeanette Petitpas-Taylor, was here to sort of unveil the plans and is very excited about this addition to our community. But that hasn't gone without some controversy as well.
Absolutely, it's again one of those situations where it's beside a residential area. The neighbors have concerns. It's the unknown, and I completely understand that has been green space. There's a lot more green space behind it too. It's the biggest green space we have in the community. But there's, as far as I know, the apprehension is the fact that they don't want it beside their house, and that's just saying what it is. It's a situation where this is not a new conversation. We've been talking about this since the previous council. Myself, I actually was looking at multiple locations myself, wondering if it was the perfect fit, and then we ended up tabling it because the funding never came in. And this council's talked about it several times. We've had a number of presentations. Dr. Johnson's been in. It was Sortie's preferred location. It's along the trail system. It's well lit. The season, if you think of the seasonality, it's not some place that closes in that area. You can still access it. It was the location that Sortie wanted, and Town Council voted, and it doesn't really require a lot of process behind it because it's not being rezoned. It doesn't require a variance. It is no different than putting a sculpture in there. It's something that you can do in green space. And again, I understand the concerns around it. I can say that council made the decision not to just put equipment there. They wanted it landscaped properly. It's going to actually have some things around it to make it look like a park. And, it's nothing new. Elizabeth Street Park, beautiful addition to our downtown. It's the same thing. It is green space that the community has the right to develop in a way that they see fit. And as far as any consideration on moving locations, it would take every member of council because a decision has been made in the last 6 months. It would have to be unanimous to revisit it. And right now, we'll see where that goes. It's in an upcoming conversation, but a lot of people, and majority of people, are excited to see that come.
Yeah, and you mentioned Elizabeth Park. I'm lucky enough to live virtually across the street from it, so I have my dinner there often, and if you haven't gone there yet, it's so beautiful.
And what does Elizabeth Park do to your house? It's probably an addition to your neighborhood that makes it a more enjoyable place to live.
Right? I pretend it's my front yard.
Yeah.
And lastly, the dog park that we are hearing lots about in town council meeting, a proposed dog parks. Has there been a settlement on the most ideal location for this at this point, and what phase are we at with the go-ahead?
So there was a look at putting it down at a location down towards the point, not the same side as where the exercise park is, but the other location was by Mallory Sports Field. So there was 2 different spots that we were looking at. We just had a public engagement session this past week where members of the public went in and gave their input, and staff of the next council meeting is going to take us through what they heard from the public. I'm just talking to staff. I think majority preferred the Mallory Sports Field for a number of reasons. There is washrooms there, first of all. The other thing is it's a little bit off. It's not as residential. There's some benefits of its location. The only opposition that I've been aware of so far is the potential that it might have to cut a few trees. But the people that are trying to raise money for the dog park said we actually want trees to be in the dog park too for some shade and things like that. So I'm looking forward to getting that feedback. So all we've done so far is just had an open house on that. We did talk. The town is preparing to budget for 50% of the dollars for the next year in order to make that a reality, and the other 50% will be done by a group of citizens that love their dogs and want an area where they can run off leash. So more to come on that, but no decision on location has been made, but it will be coming up in an upcoming meeting because in order for budgeting, we need to know exactly where it's going. But the proposed location would be, if you picture the washrooms at Mallory Sports Field, there's a little trail that runs behind it. So to the right of the trail is where the proposed location is right now. So more to come. Council needs to have more conversations on it, but there's a lot of dog owners excited.
I'd love to get some of your final thoughts on summer in St. Andrews. Feels busier than ever, and I have to make a point of mentioning Herb McGee, who's my neighbor on Water Street, is concerned about a lot of speeding that he's noticing. He sits on his porch a lot, so with the heavy traffic, which is great for business, comes issues such as speeding. But in general, how is summer going? It seems to be that the store as a business district is doing really well. There's more concerts than I remember since pre-COVID, really.
Yeah. everyone's got everyone backlogged of events they want to do. It's going well. When I say that, I think that we were so blessed during the pandemic. Yet last year was exceptionally busy. I think there's a few restaurants that would tell you they're not as busy as last year. It feels busy, but I would say that it's business to business, if you ask. So it's steady. Like it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's just you never know what to expect. I think the price of fuel is playing a little bit of a factor. I did talk to a number of hotels, and they talk about how many U.S. people are starting to book. So I don't really think ArriveCan is maybe setting us back as much as we think, but things overall are really well. If you go downtown, you can tell there's lots of people coming in the community. We've just been so blessed. If you look at some businesses, they might show that their numbers went up more. Well, ours didn't go up as much because we've been steady throughout the pandemic. So I'm just so grateful. And although visitors are around, when you talk, there's still a lot of day trippers. New Brunswickers are continuing to support St. Andrews like they never have in new levels, because although traveling is continuing, we're still not getting those cross-country Canadians that we saw. We're seeing the Americans come up from the East Coast, but with the price of fuel, it's probably not that big of a surprise that we're not seeing people drive across the country like they did before. So, but so far so good. And as far as speeding, for Herb's question, he's not alone. I guess this is a bit of a spicy episode, which is good. The Town of St. Andrews Council has made it perfectly clear to the RCMP that we need more presence. And we're not the only community that is saying it. We know what's happening in Macadam right now with an individual taking the law into their own hands. But the reality is we need more police presence, and we're trying to work with the RCMP, improve communication. I think that's a fundamental thing. But right now I am a little concerned about the amount of policing we're seeing. Myself, I was walking on Water Street. Someone flew by going 90 after I was at the Treadwell one night. It's concerning. So I definitely hear where Herb's coming from. We're continuing to pass on the province. And it's not a situation where we're not paying for the RCMP. We're just asking to get the service that we're paying for. It's not like, get more officers on the street, this will go away. No, I don't think that right now the RCMP is living up to their contract. So it's something that we're going to continue to focus on. But it's been an ongoing challenge in this community for a number of years and the whole region. I'm not the only mayor saying this. We're not the only council. Yeah. Every community's been saying it. We need more presence and visibility.
I heard that. Honestly, at St. Stephen Town Council this week, same issue. And we're also hearing issues like the rise in gas prices have led to theft going up as well. And this is just the reality of the time we're living in. And I think it is overall a Southwest New Brunswick issue that I'll continue to follow with you and all the other mayors as well. But thank you so much for sitting down today, Brad.
My pleasure. I always enjoy it. Thank you.
My guest today has been the mayor of the town of St. Andrews, Brad Henderson. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Your Town Matters.